Okay, so welcome everyone to our Irish Heart Foundation volunteer panel. Okay, want to welcome our lovely panelists, Fiona Marr. Fiona is from Ashburn. Fiona works in nutrition, exercise, and has a lifestyle and as a lifestyle coach. Fiona has recently joined the Patient Champions and has worked with our patient panel as well as a volunteer. And she's done phenomenal work to date. And we look forward to hearing your story, Fiona. Next, we have Sharon Fitzharris from Kildare. Sharon has a background in digital marketing and advertising. Sharon is part of our Young Stroke Survivors Network and has helped in various volunteering roles, such as creating content for our newsletter. And that was really important over COVID because it really kept our members feel part of the Irish Heart Foundation. She created a Heart to Heart blog. She came to me one day and said, I have an idea. And I was like, okay, Sharon, go for it. So she's just a wonderful creative girl and we're so proud of her as a volunteer. So she's part of the Stroke Heart Committee and she's currently taken on a new volunteer role as a social media content coordinator for our private Facebook groups for our members.
What was the idea?
The Heart to Heart blog.
Oh, okay.
So Chris Murphy is down the end there. Chris, you're very welcome. And Chris is from Mill Street, County Cork. He's married with triplet daughters. God help you, Chris. Busy household. Chris has had a stroke in 2021. He's unable to drive because of this and hasn't been able to get back to work. But Chris, being Chris, wanted to do more for other people. So Chris took on a role as a volunteer and is currently helping out as a Stroke Connect coordinator, telephone volunteer. But also he does our Let's Talk program as well with bringing as a lived experience volunteer to members. So thank you so much for being here, Chris. And last but very not least, Karen McLaughlin, who I think a lot of you will know at this stage. She's a powerhouse, has lived in Dublin all her life. She's married with 3 children and 1 grandson. She's worked over 30 years as a nurse until January 2020 when she was diagnosed with heart failure. Karen has shared her story on social media for the Irish Heart Foundation to help raise awareness and is currently part of the Patient Champions team. And as I said, she really is a phenomenal volunteer and welcome. Great to have you here. So I'm going to start off with yourself, Fiona. So just maybe tell us a bit how volunteering with the Irish Heart Foundation has personally maybe affected you, your life, and maybe your perspective on volunteering.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? It started, I'd say, 4.5 years ago. I was diagnosed as a heart failure patient. My prognosis wasn't great. I wasn't expected to live very long after that. And I remember I had come from a very busy business background. So I went from working non-stop, really busy, to nothingness. And I mean absolutely nothingness. I'd completely lost all purpose in my life. I literally was at home waiting to die. And this went on. And as time went on anyway, I defied the odds and survived and got stronger and stronger. But I always had this sense that I had no purpose to my life. I was just literally a mother with my kids, and I still knew that there was more to me, that it was, I kept saying, oh, this can't just be it. It can't just be it. And then last May, I was at an event and I heard Pauline O'Shea talk and Karen McLaughlin. And I remember sitting there going, I need to do something with my life. I can't just be at home with nothingness. So I approached Pauline and I asked her, I knew I wanted to volunteer, but I didn't know how to go about it. So anyway, she showed me the way. And since then, I mean, I remember 2 nights before I went to the conference in May, I remember sitting there saying, I've no purpose. Oh God, you know. But since that, I've been to the Dáil and I've spoken in the Dáil to TDs. I've met the most amazing, wonderful people. They are now going to be my friends for life, all of them. I've trained as a patient champion. I've been to Brussels. I've made a video. You know, I've done so much stuff to help people. And also, I'm in the process now of setting up a support group in Ashburn, where I live. So in the space of 6 months, my life has completely changed. I have so much purpose in my life now and meaning. It's so meaningful.
I was going to say, do you have any standout moment, but there's a lot of moments there.
No, there is so many moments. I think the biggest thing of all was meeting and having a connection with the people, especially on the heart failure panel, because I've really got to know them. And I remember Pauline O'Shea saying there's medicine in meeting fellow patients, and there really truly is. I do believe that my health is way better because of these people. You know, you've so much in common with them, and the support that we all give each other is amazing. I feel like I've known them all my whole life, and we all just connected very well, you know. And if nothing else comes from it, I have friends for life, you know. And no, just onwards and upwards, as they say.
Brilliant.
It's
Thank you.
fantastic.
Yeah, no, it is great, and you're a great bunch. I have to say, you know, it's like you were friends a very, very long time. You know,
Yeah,
you've
we're a little
gelled.
tribe.
Yeah, you were family, little heart family.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're
So Sharon,
amazing.
I'm going to move on. Thank you so much, Fiona, to yourself, and I'm going to just ask, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you work with the volunteer program?
Yeah. I had a stroke in December 2020, and I was 31 when that happened. And as you can imagine, I was quite young when that happened, so I was totally isolated. None of my friends, thankfully, have ever had a stroke, or any of my younger family members. So I was thinking, oh God, this only happens to older people, as far as I was aware at the time. So I was in a very low place, and when I left the hospital, it was in the midst of COVID, and they just kind of released me from the hospital, and they were like, off you go now, you'll be fine. Well, not that you'll be fine, but they didn't give me any information, or they didn't tell me anything. So as I was in a low place, I started Googling, and I was like, I need to talk to somebody completely on my own here. Don't know what I'm going to do. So I found the Heart Foundation online, and I didn't realise at the time that they looked after stroke survivors as well. So I sent an email to info at the Heart Foundation, and I just said, look, I'm after having a stroke. I don't know who I'm going to talk to. I need help. And they got back to me straight away, and the support since then has been unbelievable. Up to this time, like, they still support me every week. So the reason I volunteer is to give back to them, especially in the first year of my recovery. They were 100% there for me. I actually don't think I'd be here now if it wasn't for the Heart Foundation. So that's why I volunteer, to give back to them and to help other stroke survivors as much as I can, and to spread the word of the Irish Heart Foundation. So I do a lot of, like you see, I won the award today for the e-volunteering. So I help as much as I can with the social media side of things. And as Martina mentioned, I help out with the newsletter and do blogs as well. So I worked in marketing before I had my strokes. I'm not able to go back to work at the moment because of cognitive problems since the stroke, and I suffer a lot with seizures as well. So I'm able to use my skills and attributes that I had before I had the stroke, working in marketing. And the role I have now, Martina, has very much allowed me to make that my own, and to kind of mould it to what my needs are, because I do get those seizures and that kind of thing. She allows me the time I need and kind of what they need as well, but to mould that into my abilities.
We
so
work
it's
well together.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
we do. She rings me up and asks her what she needs, and I'll ring her up and say, I need my
I need
time.
a break.
Yeah. So we work
Don't
well
ask
hand in
anymore.
hand. Yeah, we really do. And I've met fantastic people in the Heart Foundation as well. Like, I not just hide behind a desk and do my social media bits. I actually go out, and it's a very great place socially to meet people. We online a lot because it was very much during COVID. I met people behind the screen, but then to go out and actually meet them face to face has been unbelievable. So I became very good friends with Fiona and Carrie and some of the other and some of the other girls as well, and some of the guys. So it's just been fantastic for me to do the volunteering. So yeah.
It's brilliant, Sharon. And
Yeah.
what I love about what you said there is Sharon is not afraid to say no. And as much as we want our volunteers to help us and support us, and that's so important, but we also need you to mind yourself. So saying no sometimes is what you need, and that's okay, you know.
Yeah.
But we're so grateful for everything you do. So thank you, Sharon.
So the flexibility,
Yeah.
I suppose, is there from the Heart Foundation. They understand everyone's backgrounds if they have been unwell and that kind of stuff as well. So it's a fantastic kind of place to work and to volunteer.
Yeah. And I believe you're going to start coming into the office more.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe so.
Yeah? Which would be great.
Be careful with Martina.
I love it.
Once she has you, she has you.
Thank you so much, Karen. So, Karen, I'm going to move over to yourself there and just say thank you for being here, because I know you've done so much for us already and you're always saying yes. Can you tell us a little bit about your own, what motivates you as a volunteer, and a little around volunteer work you're involved with, please?
Thank you. I suppose I was volunteered initially in that I was diagnosed I've shared my story many times, so I'm sure some might have seen that. But when I was first diagnosed with heart failure, I was very much on my own, very isolated. It was around the time of COVID as well. So the IHF supports were actually a lifeline for me. They really helped me through, particularly the first 2 years. So when I was asked initially to be an ambassador and share my story, I was delighted to just have an opportunity to give back. And if I could offer any support to anybody to help them in times which can be very dark and very lonely, I just was delighted to have an opportunity to do that, I suppose, and it's kind of grown from there. Like everybody says, I mean, I've worked as a nurse and midwife all my life, and I've been unable to go back to work. So as a member of the caring profession, it's been a huge loss for me to not be able to care or offer care anymore as part of my role. And not being able to work, obviously, it means, you've no sense of purpose, no ability to make a contribution to society. So volunteering has given me a sense of that again, and an opportunity to be a part of something. The connections are wonderful. To meet my peers who have become my friends. That's, as Pauline says, it's medicine. It's really rich, and it's really important to feel. I certainly felt very alone, and I don't think I'd be alone in this room in saying that. When you are given a life-changing diagnosis, it's enormous and overwhelming, and the physical fallout is huge. The psychological fallout is another banger that perhaps is something that we need to be really aware of. And so many things, from one, knowing I wasn't going to die in 5 minutes, from meeting other patients with the condition that were still alive and just defying everything, to just rich, wonderful connections with wonderful people. And I'm so inspired by being in this room today. I feel like I'm in the baby room as far as volunteering and contribution. There's wonderful contributions here, which are just, as I say, inspiring. So, yeah.
Thank you, Karen. I actually remember the first time I met you online on Zoom. It was one of Lucinda's Zooms.
Yeah.
And I was so inspired by your story, and it just proves, you can volunteer, and Anne said it earlier, in so many different ways, and just even telling your story, it's helping someone else. So thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate everything you do. Chris, I'm going to move on to yourself. So what motivates you to continue volunteering for the Irish Heart Foundation, and maybe have you any specific kind of instances or stories that maybe has inspired you?
I suppose the reason I joined was started volunteering was because when I had a stroke first, I didn't have any supports around me, and I felt I was looking for somewhere to go and somewhere to find and people to talk to, and I eventually found the Irish Heart Foundation. And I found it kind of strange to start because I felt that the Irish Heart Foundation was mainly about heart conditions. I didn't think it was for stroke, but to be honest, I found them outstanding since, so it's very good. And before I go any further, I have to say we're taking the best dress prize home to Cork this evening. So,
we'll have to get Paddy on stage again.
So I just found out that Paddy's from where I'm originally from as well. So
brilliant.
yeah.
And Chris, I know you make phone calls for us, and I know you came from a caring background, in your professional career. So maybe if you'd like to tell us a little bit about that.
I worked in a home care company as a manager, and I used to go out and do assessments on people that needed home care. And I suppose I done that with stroke survivors at the time, but I never really looked into what they needed. It was kind of, geez, you were 30 hours, you were 20 hours, you were 10 hours a week. Whereas now I would have a completely different outlook on what people need and what people would desire to have, like, you know. And I think a lot of stroke and heart victims are kind of put in a corner as if they can't speak or they can't hear, and they think that's all wrong. And so I know, since I had the stroke, I can see that, and I hope to bring that to the company. I hope to go back to it very shortly in home care, and like that, it's kind of the long time. It's a long time game for them, but I know whether they've interest in the short term or the long term. But I can see where the benefits would stack up in the long term for them. Like so.
Brilliant. And I've heard great feedback from the phone calls that you make to stroke survivors, and even that lived experience, you know, that when you ring someone, really assures them that they're not alone.
No, and I suppose, to be honest, it's as good for me as it is for them.
Yeah, very
Because
powerful.
they hear my story and I hear their story, and we can connect. And like, I can go home and talk to my wife or talk to anybody that hasn't had a stroke or a heart condition, and they'll nod and they'll say they understand. But until you've been there, you don't really understand it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's very important, isn't it? I
Oh,
think,
it is,
you
yeah.
know, it really is. Thank you so much, Chris. Fiona, I'm going to come back to yourself, just if you want to maybe tell us, if somebody wanted to volunteer with the Irish Heart Foundation and they were thinking about it, what would you say to them?
Oh, I would just say, just if you're thinking about it, just make a phone call and just do it, because there's nothing to it. All you have to do is just ring them, and Pauline O'Shea will will show you the way.
We'll get Pauline up here.
She'll have you on that patient champion list before you know it. No, seriously, I just think, for me, I mean, it gives you a purpose, a sense of purpose and focus, and you will feel so rewarded in meeting and all these other fellow patients. And I mean, you don't obviously have to be a patient either. I mean, you can give back without being a patient. For me, I definitely wanted to do it because I knew that there was so little supports out there for patients. So I knew I wanted to be part of that change. So I think for anyone that's thinking about it, just ring the Heart Foundation and do it, because it's so easy. All the supports are there, all the training is there, and as I said, you'll make friends for life, and that's it. It's that easy, you know.
Thank you so much, Fiona. And Sharon, same question to yourself.
Similar to what Fiona said, it gives an amazing sense of purpose, and the community is just fantastic in the Heart Foundation and the volunteering. Just it's a huge sense of community. It's lovely. But one of the things that I've noticed in the last year is that the smallest amount of volunteer work that you do, it trickles down. So I've met a few stroke and heart survivors in the last year, and you might do something small like pick up the phone and have a conversation with someone, or I'd be working on the newsletter with Fiona and some of the other girls, and you'd send out the newsletter and not even think twice about it, but you'd be having a chat with someone and they'd say, oh, there was a line in the newsletter, or I was having a call with someone and they said the slightest thing, and that would absolutely make their month, make their week. And it's just the smallest thing that you do would just lift somebody so much. So I think that's just something, if you're thinking about volunteering, just to keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, so important. Yeah. Breda said it to me earlier. Actually, she said, "Why did I get an award? You know, I only come into the office a couple of hours a week, but those couple of hours help our staff, you know, be able to concentrate on helping more members. So every hour, every minute that you give to the Irish Heart, and no matter what, how small, it's so important."
Yeah.
So thank you, Sharon. That's brilliant. And Karen, to yourself, what would you say to someone if they were thinking about it?
Well, I'd encourage anybody to volunteer. It's like a buffet. You can choose what you want to give. You're not under any pressure. Although actually, yeah, that's a lie, because sometimes you are a little bit under pressure. But
Only when Pauline's around.
I'm certainly, I mean, I'm here public speaking. This is pretty phenomenal as far as I'm concerned. You might not think it is, but it's very phenomenal for me. You're surprising yourself with things that you might never have thought you could even consider, and I suppose it's just, there's so much, as you've demonstrated and spoken about today. You've nothing to lose and so much to gain by being part of this community and by offering. Everybody has something to offer, and it doesn't matter whether it's tiny or the likes of Paddy, where it's rather enormous. Everybody has something to give. And for me, a standout moment for me was when I spoke at a conference earlier this year, and my whole motivation to speak and share my story as somebody who would be very private, and I've exposed more of myself in the last few years than, but I spoke at that conference, and again, lost sleep over it for a few nights beforehand. But I went out afterwards and I spoke to somebody, and he said what I said gave him hope. And that's enough for me. I gave one person hope. That's why I'm here. That's why I will continue to do it. And for a long time, I felt completely hopeless and helpless. And I'm not there anymore, thankfully. And we'll, keep working anyways, onwards and upwards. But, so.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you. That's very inspirational. And it is lovely to hear that has helped you, and that's what we're here
for. Therapy as well.
Yeah.
I didn't realise. The first time I was asked to speak, it was all about how I was going to put it and what I was going to say. And you don't have to remember something you've lived it. And as you say, Chris, people around you say they understand, but nobody can get it until you've actually walked the walk. But it was an after effect of that I didn't realise that it was actually therapeutic for me. And I have managed, because of everyone not telling me story now, but it's become softer for me. It's helped me to process it and to work through stuff. And of course there's still an endless amount to do there, and it's a work in progress, but I'm definitely in a much better place with what has happened to me. I'm learning to finally accept where I am and this new identity that I fought against for so long. So there's an awful lot of positive.
A huge amount to deal with, as you said. In the nursing profession, you're helping someone every day, and then you go from that to nothing. So, it's great to hear the volunteering has brought back a little bit of hope for you. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Brilliant. And Chris, yourself?
I suppose for me, it was when I got sick first, my so-called friends were long disappearing, and I found that the people that stayed there were good for me, and I started making calls because I felt that people needed someone to talk to, needed friends, and some of the people I call will be friends for life, as Deirdre said, Deirdre on. You pick up the phone and say, "Oh, gee, Chris, thanks for ringing this week. It's a great benefit for me." So, it's as good for me as it is for them, to be honest.
That's great, Chris. Thank you. It really is lovely, rewarding to hear that. And I think just as what we'd like to end on is just anyone can volunteer. It can be very small, it can be very big. As Paddy, I think you've definitely taken the award for that one today. But we are just so grateful for every little bit of volunteering people do. And I think Mary Diskin is in the room over here, and I'll never forget the first day I met her. She was volunteering, and it's just when you see these stories and hear these stories and see what people are doing outside of their work profession or outside having a stroke or a heart condition, that giving back piece is more rewarding than what you actually put into it, helping someone.
From, especially from my point of view, and I know what the other here, what the Irish Heart Foundation do for me and do for everybody else, I presume, is very good. So just for me, thanks very much for everybody.
Thank you very much. But a huge round of applause to our panellists today. They're amazing.